Hi, I'm Adel Rahmani, founder of Dubai Watch Club, and with me today is...
Hi everyone, I'm Alexandre Ghotbi. I am Deputy Chairman and Head of Watches at Phillips for Europe and Middle East. Hi Adel, how are you? Good to see you again.
Fantastic, how are you?
All is good.
It's great. Short trip this time, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately leaving tomorrow, but it's always a fantastic time to come to Dubai and meet the friends and collectors and so many people to see. Every time I add like an extra day, next time I think I'll just stay a month.
Yeah, we'll get you to move here, right?
Would love that, actually.
Yeah. Well, so what do you want to talk about today? Should we do...
So we had this subject that we talked about previously off camera, and we're saying is creative independent horology dead? It's a bit provocative.
Very.
But it's a question that deserves to be asked.
Well, let's go following up from our previous conversation of defining what an independent watchmaker is and who can be classified as independent, right? Let's focus on the smaller brands. Let's not include Rolex and Patek this time. What do you think?
Let's talk about the more artisanal brands. I fully agree. agree.
Yeah. It's hard to say if they're dead per se, right? Like maybe there has been a bit of stagnation from what they've been producing. More experimentation with maybe materials, less so with the R&D, with the actual complications. Or I would say maybe there is, before when you used to think about an independent, right? Before, like let's say 10 years ago, right? When you thought independent, you'd think horological machine from Max. You'd think like satellites from Urwerk, like those are what pop into my mind at least, right?
Exactly.
When I think about independent. I don't think of a conventional watch in a round case or a square or a tonneau shaped case. Like I think of something else, like anything else, like a trapezoid case or a spaceship or like something else, right? I don't see that anymore.
No.
I don't see a lot of that anymore. I see that in lower price points.
Exactly.
Perhaps, right? Less so where we have like famous or like big name watchmakers, like high end finishing, like with all the bells and whistles. Like I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning the complications. I was thinking more about the design or the kind of, let's leave the round watch alone. I mean, if we look at it, when Daniel Roth started in the 80s, his case shape, that was very modern. It was very unusual.
Contemporary.
It was very out there. In the 1990s, you saw a Vianney Halter with the Antiqua. That was a crazy watch. You had the Urwerk that came out, and then they had the 101, the 103, which really put them. Max with the Opus project, Opus 3 and 5, which are the most outlandish watch with his own brand. You had the Bethune that went from more traditional designs to the more, futuristic. And then these guys were really representing, they were torchbearers for not only independent horology, because as you said, when you think of independence from days past, this is what pops into your mind.
Exactly.
And obviously, you had Carré Voutiline and you had Philippe Dufour, who were really...
and whatnot.
Exactly. Who were really... Well, even Prezioso was kind of outlandish, but,
True, but like within the round case, right?
Exactly. And then, today, where we have this huge rebirth of independent horology, and we're seeing round watches, three-handed watches, beautifully finished watches, but it's very, very, very classical. So, and the guys who are still surprising us is still Max Büsser and BNF. It's still Urwerk. It's still de Bethune. But, Max is over 50 years old. The guys from Urwerk, they're over 50-year-olds. The guys that debate. So what are these 20, 30-year-olds? Why are they not rebelling against the past and coming out with something totally crazy?
Very interesting that you said rebelling. Just a tidbit. I think I can't remember which Dubai Watch Week it was. Maybe it was 2015 or 17. They had a forum, and it was called the Rebels of Horology. Mm-hmm. It was like Max, it was Felix, you know, like it was that crew, you know. So like, I get what you say, you know, like true rebels of horology, you know, like we won't stand for like the classical designs or even the classical finishing. I mean, like they do new finishing, like they're giving new terms to new techniques that they are creating, like the Clou de Paris kind of finishing that they did on the case. You know, like I don't recall, like I've seen that before, like on any other watch besides the 210. I think it.
And that's an incredible. And then, however, and to jump on what you were saying, and on like more entry level, like really the micro brands. Mm-hmm. One who's doing, I find, a fantastic job is Théo Offray. Yeah. Who has his own brand, which is more classical. But even though I find the designs very different, but with the Space One watches, they're between 1,000 to 3,000 euros. The first one was like spaceship. The second one, they brought out a Tellurium with day and date and an Aventurine dial at 3,000 euros. And it's assembled in France. The movement is Swiss. I mean, you're getting a super cool watch. So it's what happened that all of a sudden the creativity went to not even entry-level brands. We're talking about like micro brands that sell on Kickstarter.
Well, here's my question, right? When a watchmaker starts working on his own passion project, right? What do you think is the first thing that comes to mind? Is it, do I want to make what I really want to make, or should I make something that sells?
That's a very good point. I'm not an independent watchmaker.
You saw where I was going with that one, right?
But then if you are an independent watchmaker and have decided to set up on your own, you want to make a watch that reflects who you are. If not, you go work for a big brand. You don't have the headache of sales. You don't have the headache of suppliers. You don't have the headache of paying bills at the end of the month. You get a salary and you make whatever somebody tells you to make. So if you go on your own, it's because you have something to say. It's because you want to bring your view, your DNA, your vision, whatever, to the market. So obviously you want to sell, but I seriously don't think you go independent for the money or for the sales. It's because you want to do something which is who you are.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I am this genius independent watchmaker. Yeah. Okay. I am, say, 25 years old with prior experience at a big company, let's say a Patek or something, mm-hmm. right? And I know how to make repeaters, I know how to make chronos, I know how to make world times, add power reserves, lunar indications, whatnot. Okay, cool. And I have this great idea. I have this watch that looks like a shark, and it tells the time with the fins, and like it's also a sundial if you rotate the teeth, and like I have this whole thing going on, okay? And I can do it. I have the ability to execute, right? I'm on the bench. And I'm like, no one's ever gonna buy this. Why don't I make a three-handed watch first, which I know will sell, which I know I can kind of use the proceeds to kind of work on my passion project, mm-hmm. or I can make that like an entry-level thing and kind of test the waters with it. Not everyone can do what Krivia did, what the Recep did, you know, like launching the AKs like super big and bulky, and like with Bosches. I don't know. I think I should probably, you know what I mean? Like you're on the bench.
I understand. But interesting to go back to Recep. It's interesting that he started with the AK, which was
the other way around,
which was very modern, which was very cool, and it did not sell. And Recep, he made it big when he brought out his round watch with three
Everybody
hands.
was watching, right?
Exactly. And then once that the CC1, the Chronomètre Contemporain 1, became a hit, everybody wanted the other ones, and now everything is sold out. But then today, if you're a young watchmaker and you want to stand out, and this is coming from somebody who loves independent watchmaking. I love independent. For me, this is what is really bringing watchmaking forward and the future of watchmaking. But there's also a fatigue how many 3-hand watches with a good finish can somebody have? Can you have on the market? At the end of the day, it's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. So the dials may be different, the cases may be, but the philosophy behind it is the same thing. And at one point, I think it was Max Buser who said, we always rebel against what came before us. Mm-hmm. Like kids. Kids always, rebel against their fathers, and then they grow up and they realize that their fathers were actually right. I'm saying this to my own kids. But when you're 30 years old, when you're 25 years old, don't you want to come out there and just, be rebellious and show who you are, and not, just say, okay, I'll make another watch that looks like a Breguet, or I make another watch that looks like a Dufour, or I make another watch that looks like a Calatrava. Don't you want to make a watch that looks like a shark fin, and which is also a sundial? Because that's different. And then, why? Why is it that today, this generation, and I sound like an old fart saying this, doesn't want to take that risk? Max Buser did it, and he was 40 years old. And the guys from Horological did it. Vianney Halter did it. And it's not normal, in my opinion, that those who are the most rebellious and creative are the guys who were the most rebellious and creative 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
Great point you brought up, and I'll raise you this, right? They made it. How many didn't make it?
A lot.
So you see where I'm coming from, from the point of view of a watchmaker who has the skills, the know-how, the expertise. Why not do something safe,
Safe is boring.
Safe is boring.
Safe will not get you far. Not everybody's going to end up being a Recep.
I'm with you. But look at how long Max struggled. Look at how long Felix struggled. Like, it wasn't easy for them. A lot of them died out. Where is Pressure today? Thomas Pressure. I mean, I don't know. Where.
Yeah, he makes 1 or 2 watches on bespoke, whatever.
You know what I mean, right? So where are those names? What did Recep have to go through to get to where he is today? Exactly. Look at the risk he took. Yeah. It paid off, yes. Yeah. But not everyone's risk will pay off. And look at how many years of struggling did it take for the HMs to finally gain, let's say, resale value. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because fact of the matter is, today that's how you are judged as a brand.
But let me give you 2 opposite examples. Yeah. Look at, on the very lower end of the market, there's Anoma. Mm-hmm. Okay, super cool design, kind of a triangular watch. It's $1,200 or whatever. So entry level, not much of a risk, because even if you buy it and you don't like it, it's okay. But then you have somebody like Bergeron, who brought out this very funky case shape where even the movement follows it, and it's a 40, 50K watch. That's creative. And people were lining up to buy it.
Is it at that artisanal level, though? You know what I'm trying to say?
He's not a watchmaker. He's a designer, Bergeron. Mm. But then does this mean that today the creativity will no longer come from watchmakers because they want to play it safe, and it will come from designers?
Interesting. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. But then look at
Barons. I can't pronounce.
Barons. They're very cool watches.
No, there's this Chinese brand as well. I can't pronounce the name. God help me. It's Kingan or Chingan.
The traditional classical, beautifully made watch.
There's a butterfly in it, or dragonfly.
Exactly.
Dragonfly,
it's a lovely watch.
There's this other one with a triaxial tourbillon at $20,000. Yeah. I don't know if it works. Yeah. Okay, and I don't know if it's accurate either. But it's not dead. It's just it seems to be dead in Switzerland. Or Europe,
on the more traditional fields of horology. It's possible, because maybe we in the Western world, I would say we in Switzerland, we're kind of stuck in this kind of, now talk about only tradition, but Breguet, 250 years ago, he was a rebellious. He made watches thinner. He made watches more simple instead of this ornate, decorations,
Yes,
whatever.
yes.
He created his guilloche. He made things. He was rebellious against whomever came before him.
It doesn't look like that today, but like at the time.
He was a rebel, exactly. So it's where are we going? Is basically the horological field is just classics, and then you have designers, engineers who come and have like a concept. There's one I find also quite interesting is David Kondo, who's a watchmaker, and he has this very special case shape, his dials, etc.
It's not just the case shape; it's the movement, the whole movement.
Yeah,
kind of like,
exactly. So I think he's one that is kind of a newcomer because I think he started in 2018 or 19.
No, should have been.
No, because he was at JLC making the grand complications and everything. And I think he started right before COVID. I think that's interesting, but one watchmaker, new, it's and I think we need creativity because at one point, I'm going back, how many three-hand watches with the nice finish movement do you need? At one point, it's enough. There's no innovation in it.
I would counter and say, as a whole, we all vote with our wallets.
Yeah.
So this may be a message to me, you, and even you. Vote with your wallet, and let's see if we can get more people to venture outside.
Yeah, but if you don't have the choice, you can't vote with your wallet because you have no choice to buy. Yeah, you buy Max Serpenti. It's already sold out.
Buy the Serpenti, yeah.
It's already sold out.
Yeah.
He launched it, 2 weeks ago, and it's already, the 99 are gone. So there's
a few UR100s out there, so like there are alternatives.
Yeah, there are alternatives, but yeah.
That doesn't mean don't buy a Kari. That doesn't mean don't go chase after a Dufour in an auction. That doesn't mean don't buy a Smith or a Daniels or whatever, right? It just means that there's other stuff too. And if we can show them love, then maybe you can convince a young and upcoming watchmaker to make what he actually wants to
exactly,
make.
I agree.
Right? You can inspire him via an auction result or like a sale or whatever that...
I agree.
Okay, I can do something.
Because
I'll make that sharp.
We need diversity. Diversity brings... It's the salt of watch collecting. Because if you only had super creative watches, it would be boring. You'd probably go crazy. And if you just have one selection of three-hand watches, it's also yawn. So yeah, we need the diversity. We need that. And I think it's very important to keep the market alive, to keep the market interesting, to have diversity.
So talking about the design aspect, you did say something that I thought was very interesting, that maybe the next big design wouldn't come from a watchmaker or maybe even a watchmaking brand. And to your point, we can say that there have been some instances where engineers have come up with a great design, or perhaps like with Genta.
Yeah.
Would you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We started off by talking about independent watchmaking, but Genta, he was not a watchmaker.
No.
And when he created his own brand, it was incredibly creative. I mean, just coming out with these mega complications, and some of his watches were the most complicated and expensive watches of the time. And he had this kind of like pyramidal case, with 5 sides, and it was crazy. And then when you think of it, even his jump hour watches with the Mickey Mouse and all the Disney characters, that was extremely creative. So creativity doesn't have to be crazy, but it can just be crazy. You know what you know what I mean?
Yeah, quirky perhaps.
Quirky.
Yeah.
And then, true, we talked about the independence, and we talked about Berneron, where he's a designer and not a watchmaker, even though the movement is very well thought out in his watch. But today, I think if we take out, all the guys we spoke about, MBNF, Kondo, Orwerk, etc., I think where we see a lot of creativity is actually with the jewelry brands.
With the bigger brands.
With the bigger jewelry brands, because I think jewelry is all about creativity, not about classicism. And what are the watches that sell the most today? And this is food for thought for that independent guy who's one day is going to sit behind his bench and wants to make his round watch. The Cartier Crash.
Yeah.
Hottest watch on the market. The cloche, super coveted. The tank asymmetrique, super coveted. And they're not classical watches. They're even very creative. Or look at Van Cleef and Arpels.
They have a whole suite of watches.
It is phenomenal. I mean, they're all ladies' watches, but all the, what they call them, I think the poétique mécanique,
Yeah, the
poésie
poetry,
mécanique.
yeah.
And you have the breeze going through the grass, and the grass moves, and then you have the flowers opening, and then you have a butterfly flying. That is so, I mean, it's creative aesthetically and technically. It is incredible. It is real horlogerie in every sense.
You know, and I bet there's a lot of watchmakers that can execute technically. And even, dare I say, like aesthetically in terms of the finishing techniques, whether it's cloisonné enamel or chambre levé or whatever, right? There's a lot of watchmakers that can do that. In my opinion, that just won't dare to do that. For some reason or the other, they'll choose the three-handed watch rather than the flowers opening. And I think that kind of sucks, but like maybe it's just out of fear of being rejected by the market or by the collectors community.
You know, there's a French expression that says "la chance sourit aux audacieux," which means luck comes to those who dare.
Wow, okay.
And this says it all.
So what's the verdict? Is creativity today amongst independents dead or not?
So it's not dead, but let's say we need a new generation to come up and take the torch from those guys who, the Vianney Halters, the Max Büssers, the Orvacs, to take the torch and go talk to a new generation, not of guys with white beards and no hair. For your generation, that's what we need.
Well, probably I'm even younger than mine, but yeah. So due for a resurgence.
Exactly. We'll have to pick this up in another year or two, see what happened.
Let's see.
Thank you.